Appropriation and false light. Appropriation is the unauthorized use of plaintiff's name or likeness for commercial purposes, such as promotion or advertisement. Newsworthiness exception. No liability for use of plaintiff's name or likeness for the purpose of reporting the news. False light is a widespread publication of a falsehood or material misrepresentation about plaintiff that would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. This includes mischaracterization of plaintiff's views or conduct, matters of public concern. Plaintiff must prove actual malice or recklessness disregard for the truth of the matter publicized. Note, this is the same as the constitutional considerations for defamation. No newsworthiness exception for false light. Defenses include consent, which is a valid defense, although defendant may be liable if his actions exceeded the consent given. Mistake as to if consent was given is not a valid defense. Privilege may be available as a defense to false light if defendant has an absolute or qualified privilege to publication. Truth is not a valid defense to invasion of privacy claims. Intrusion upon seclusion is intrusion upon plaintiff's private affairs in a matter that would be highly offensive to a reasonable person. The requirements are: 1, that plaintiff must have a reasonable expectation of privacy, no reasonable expectation of privacy in public. 2, intrusion must be highly offensive to a reasonable person. Peeping, eavesdropping, or use of hidden cameras in plaintiff's domain. No newsworthiness exception. Disclosure. Public disclosure of plaintiff's private information. Requirements are to disclosure must be: 1, highly offensive to a reasonable person. Public activities are not actionable. Defendant announces the mayor frequents strip clubs, no liability because the act occurs in public. And 2 is publicized, made available to a public audience. Newsworthiness exception, no liability if private facts are newsworthy. Defenses. Consent is a valid defense. Privilege is a valid defense to disclosure. Malicious prosecution is when defendant initiates a frivolous charge or claim against plaintiff with an improper purpose, such as filing a false police report. The elements include: 1, defendant commenced a prior criminal or civil legal proceeding against plaintiff. Note, prosecutors are immune. 2, prior proceedings terminated in plaintiff's favor. 3, no probable cause for the original proceeding. Defendant knew plaintiff was not guilty of criminal or liable civil, or had insufficient facts to reasonably believe in plaintiff's guilt or fault. 4, defendant had an improper purpose in initiating the pleading. And 5, damages. Abuse of process. Defendant uses the legal system as an ulterior purpose to threaten or act against the plaintiff. The elements are: 1, wrongful use of process for an ulterior purpose, and 2, definite act or threat against plaintiff to accomplish an ulterior purpose. Misrepresentation. Intentional misrepresentation, such as fraud or deceit, The elements are: 1, that defendant misrepresents a past or present material fact. 2, defendant knows or believes the misrepresentation is false. 3, defendant intends to induce plaintiff to act or refrain from acting in reliance on the misrepresentation. 4, actual reliance by plaintiff, which is causation. Plaintiff must actually rely on the misrepresentation. 5, justifiable reliance by plaintiff. Plaintiff must be justified in relying on the misrepresentation. And 6, damages. Plaintiff must suffer monetary loss. Negligence misrepresentation elements are: 1, that the defendant misrepresents a past or present material fact in a business or professional setting. 2, breach of duty of care owed to a particular plaintiff. Defendant knew plaintiff could rely on the misrepresentation. And 3, actual and justifiable reliance by the plaintiff. 4, damages. Plaintiff must suffer monetary loss. Intentional interference with business relations arises when a third party interferes with an existing contract, also referred to as tortious interference with contract. The elements are: 1, plaintiff has a valid contractual relationship or business expectancy, includes contracts between plaintiff and a third party. 2, defendant has knowledge of the relationship or expectancy. 3, defendant intentionally interferes with the relationship. Must be intentional. Negligence is insufficient. 4, defendant's interference causes a breach or termination of plaintiff's contract or expectancy. And 5, damages. Privileged defenses include defendant's conduct may be privileged when it is proper, attempting to obtain business or protect its interests, such as competing for plaintiff's customers.